Everyone loves and lauds mid-century style oh so very much, but there is one thing that sticks out to me particularly in that era. Do you remember all the fake fruit? Now this was long before that ubiquitous takeover of the pineapple from a few years ago, and long before we had our tomato girl summer. And definitely before Tuscan kitchen era, where the grapevine reigned supreme. This artificial, fruit-filled era of the American home was one of the most colorfully kitschy, especially gaudy areas that we've had in interior design. And honestly, it was iconic. As with all trends, what goes around comes around, and in the last few years, we've seen the resurgence of maximalist home decor. This means embracing all things colorful, playful, and sometimes, well, a little bit tacky, but we love it. And if you have somehow not yet heard of grocery girl aesthetic, well, let me put you onto it. It's the trend behind all those corn on the cob stools, the croissant candles, and the tomato lamps. A mid-century home may have looked like a farmer's market, but these days, let me tell ya, it's looking like a Whole Foods. I have to say there's something so random and hilarious about this whole thing, but yet, I'm finding it absolutely adorable. You can't help but laugh, but you also can't help but wonder, whose idea was it to bring the produce aisle inside? No, really, when did people start decorating with fruit? And I really need to get to the bottom of this because I kind of want to send them an edible arrangement. So all this delectable decor really has me thinking back onto all the historical still life paintings I know I've seen before, works where fruit is depicted in bountiful arrangements. This was way before fruit became kitsch, because back then, fruit was the muse. It's been depicted in art for centuries, often symbolizing a ton of different things, like abundance, temptation, or just the fleeting nature of life. Take, for example, Caravaggio's Basket of Fruit from 1599, Giuseppe Arcimboldo's Summer from 1563, and Paul Cézanne's The Basket of Apples from 1893, and Frida Kahlo's Still Life with Parrot and Fruit from 1951. Heck, I would say even Andy Warhol's Banana from 1967 counts. But the most famous fruit paintings have to be the Vanitas. These are the ones that immediately come to my mind when I start thinking about all the ways that people have immortalized fruit. Vanitas, which come from the word vanity, were still life works that were very popular in Europe during the Baroque period. While artistic depictions of fruit throughout history have been loaded with various symbolisms, the Vanitas were meant to specifically remind us of the fleeting nature of life. They consistently used an image of death, like most notoriously the skull, or things like a plated fish. Or an image of life, which could be represented by anything like some flowers, or you guessed it, some fruit. I especially like this little lobster in this one here. And speaking of that fleeting nature of life, in ancient Egypt, fruit was included as one of the funerary offerings that accompanied the dead in their journey to the afterlife. Egyptians were known to paint beautiful frescoes of fruit and other foods on the walls of their loved ones' tombs. I will take a bright green smashed avocado toast for mine, thank you. And the Romans, oh, let me tell you about the Romans. These guys were fruit fiends. They loved to display fruit abundantly. They were symbols of high social status, so you can imagine the table arrangements. The girl dinner in me is screaming. Check out this ancient Roman wall painting from the 1st century. This might be the first charcuterie board. So I ask, why are we stopping at the real thing? Let's turn to the Qing dynasty in China, because they were taking fruit to a whole nother dimension. The 3rd dimension specifically, because they were making fruit out of jade, agate, and alabaster. And these pieces were not purely decorative. They also held a lot of symbolic meanings, such as peace and longevity. They showcased a lot of intricate craftsmanship and highlighted the cultural importance that fruit had. Now at the same time, 18th century Europe was seeing the rise of a fascinating art form called Trompe l'oeil that played a lot with visual perception. So trompe l'oeil, which means deceive the eye in French, involved creating porcelain pieces that mimicked real-life fruits and vegetables with astonishing accuracy. I think I'm starting to see the evolution of all those iconically kitschy pieces from the 50s. Okay, now here is where it starts to get really interesting, because in Victorian era Europe, representations of fruit were even more popular when they appeared sort of more true to life, as in super realistic. During this time, hyper-realistic fruit made of both wax and resin was, as you could say, super en vogue among the royal European families, used as an exotic display of wealth. Honestly, not that far off from what the Romans did. There is a fruit fly. Oh my god, that's funny. The fruit fly is getting tricked by the fruit. It's not real. A self-taught scientist by the name Francesco Garnier Valetti was commissioned by an imperial court for his uncanny ability to produce exquisite replicas. He had invented a method that made exact replicas of fruits by mixing together wax, rosin, and alabaster powder. A recipe which had reportedly come to him in a dream. Honestly relatable. Some of my best thoughts happen when I'm asleep. His faithful fruit replicas were so like the real thing that it piqued the interest of the universities, the museums, and even the head honchos of Italy's agricultural industry. Valetti crafted over 1,200 varieties of fake fruit, many which you can still see today in Turin's Museum of Fruit. And get this, Valetti's little project even got him knighted. In 1878, King Umberto I appoints Valetti as Knight of the Order of the Crown of Italy. I guess you could say things were a little fruitful for Francesco. So now let's fast forward to the world of 20th century American modernity, where fruit making becomes a home craft in the 40s, and homemakers are buying their own fruit making kits to make their own beaded fruits. And then in the aftermath of World War II, a bunch of Americans find themselves traveling to places like Italy and Mexico, where they bring home beautifully crafted fruit souvenirs made of blown glass and carved wood. These were the perfect low maintenance decor pieces for an American suburban home. A home which could reflect that post-war optimism and prosperity of mid-century America. Magazines and advertisements of the time displayed picture-perfect homes and tables looking so colorful and abundant with the help of the simple fruit bowl. And then when the plastic boom hit, suddenly everyone could afford to have a bowl of perpetually fresh-looking fruit. No more worrying about mold or decay, just pristine produce all year round. Okay, so it seems like people have had the appetite for fruit for a while. But like we agree, there's been a lot more fruit decor recently. Even the New York Times has been talking about it. So what is with this sudden upswing? In this world of mass media, it is so hard to be genuinely surprised by anything anymore. But I do have one simple theory about it, and I think it is that, simply put, fruit is hilarious. The premise that you can take this naturally occurring gift of Mother Nature, paint it, anthropomorphize it, turn it into a dolphin display, and transform it into a bath mat, a throw pillow, and a tiny little end table. And on a design note, I would consider a bathroom downright impeccable if I walked in and saw it decked out in fruity wallpaper. And do not get me started on tile backsplash. Ooh, it's cute. In this era of dopamine decor, fruit and food stuff is going next level. So whatever the trend, the style, the era, the symbolism, fruit has been an iconic muse in everything from Renaissance paintings to your grandma's kitchen table. And personally, I love to see how something so sweet can be so stylish and so iconic. And if you're down for some delectable decor, check out Wayfair. They've got a whole produce aisle's worth of options to be as beautiful and bountiful as you are. And let me know in the comments about your favorite fruit-filled style era. And I will see you in the next episode of Iconic Objects. Bye!